Blog Talk Radio.
Hello again, amazing hempsters. Welcome to another hemp-spirational episode of HempAware Radio. Tyler Hemp here, your hemp-entrepreneurial host. I know that's a mouthful, but it doesn't stop. I'm here to hempower and hemp-educate your hemposphere because it's hemportant. And as you know, we love to focus on food, shelter, clothing, helping solve the world's most basic fundamental human needs with hemp and hemp education. And so I'm really excited that you're here to join me on this brief yet powerful educational hemp episode. Investing in your education and investing in hemp, I believe, are two commendable things that you can be doing for yourself and the planet. And if you're a Texas farmer or an entrepreneur in the Texas state, or even if you're outside of the state of Texas and maybe have some interest there, I believe you're going to appreciate this brief yet powerful conversation that I'm about to have with Zachary Maxwell of Texas Hemp Growers Association. It's a newly formed association designed to support hemp farmers to succeed with hemp, and you can learn more about them on their website, hemptx.org. And so I'm really excited to get into some nitty-gritty details about what they're doing to help the marketplace there and to really support the farmers, because right now, that's what this is about. It's really on the ground level, supporting our farmers to dial in their supply chains, get them contracts to sell their seed and their fiber or their flowers. And so I'm really excited to have Zach on the show. Zachary, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your background and your team and what inspired you to get into the hemp industry to begin with.
Sure. Well, let me start with the last part of that question, which was the inspiration to get involved. Several years ago, my dad, Perry Maxwell, had an issue with his legs where he had chronic neuropathy, and there was a very specific name for what he was suffering from, but it really had him in a position where he didn't really have many options. And at the time, the option of choice, which I think it was an option for a lot of people in the country, was opioid medication. And not going into specific detail, but, you know, as I'm sure a lot of families across the country have dealt with, those opioids created a severe medical issue there within our family. And in the aftermath of it all, the foot neuropathy wasn't gone, but my dad did not want to stay on the opioids. And one of the answers that came about around this time was CBD oil. And myself and some of my friends and my dad were, basically going to him and saying, look, there's an opportunity here with this CBD to potentially not cure you, but it could potentially alleviate your symptoms and help you deal with the transition off of opioids. And what we found was incredible results, and being able to see my dad live again. And I say live in the sense that, a lot of people can't imagine the idea of getting a phone call from their dad crying, saying he just wants his legs sawed off or he just wants, to die because he doesn't want to deal with that pain anymore. And so being able to see that change in him was in and of itself an inspiration into the business. And then actually last year in April, I lost my dad unexpectedly. And that really compelled me into what I'm doing today, which was I felt that in order to honor my dad, and his life was to go out there and help educate growers, enthusiasts, business-minded folks that want to get in on the industry about where the opportunities are and how this product works, how it functions, how to grow it, what to look out for, the pitfalls, the traps, the opportunities, and just being able to go out there and share that message, I really feel like was an opportunity and still is an opportunity to honor my dad and who he was and what he stood for. And really this helped him out. And I saw it with my own eyes. So, that was the inspiration to really get out there, get started. I saw issues in the industry of farmers being burnt on bad seed genetics, or they were going into the ground with plants with maybe not the right approach, and they were losing on it. And when I saw this stuff going on, I saw an immediate opportunity to help farmers in Texas understand where the barriers are and how to potentially avoid them. You know, we expect some farmers this year are probably going to still run into mistakes, but my hope is that by starting Texas Hemp Growers, an organization that is about the education and the communication, the networking, and the ability to connect the pieces of an otherwise fragmented industry together, that's our overall goal. And of course, you know probably better than anybody that is a large, very lofty goal, and we're working right now with growers across this state to really help them realize their potential in this industry. So, you know, that's where we come from, and it's been a real blessing. Our organization now is closing in very quickly on 200 members. We've been able to do this in about 7 months, and so being able to travel across the whole entire state, every corner, all the way down to the Rio Grande Valley, up to Amarillo, over to El Paso, out to East Texas, and visit and meet with all these farmers across the spectrum was just really a treat, and something that I feel was necessary to get folks on the right track this year in Texas, so that, you know, they don't ultimately lose everything that they invest. They hopefully get that return back this year.
That's fantastic, and that's a very inspiring story, and I'm so honored that we can have you on our platform to help move forward with this movement, and with you know, in memory of your father, Perry, that we can, you know, help others that may be struggling with issues, in whether it's their health or financially. I mean, obviously we're in a completely different world nowadays, but I think it's essential that we come together, and so an organization such as yours will be a platform for others to learn from, to possibly duplicate what you're doing. And so thank you so much for doing the legwork and getting boots on the ground and connecting with these farmers. And so that kind of brings me to the next question. You know, you're obviously creating this network and helping get the right information to the right people at the right time, specifically these growers, and how to grow and what to grow and when to grow, and just the most important information they need to succeed in the hemp world. And so with that said, I'm curious, you know, you have this network. What are some of the major goals and intentions you have moving forward with Texas Hemp Growers?
Sure. So, you know, the first goal is really the connection. You know, the farmers have to be connected with processors, the processors to manufacturers, manufacturers to retailers, retailers to consumers. And at every stage there is education, a process to really be relayed out to the different segments of the market. And so for us, we obviously want to expand. We felt like we got a lot of great feedback. I felt like we got a lot of great feedback from the classes that we did throughout this state, and so being able to kind of expand on that more in order to guide people towards best practices, you know, is a major goal of ours. And so we're working on some projects. We just did a big overhaul of our website that actually turns it into really a hemp social platform, a social networking platform. And we did this because we actually want our members, and really non-members that just join for free, can get on there and start communicating with each other, which is a huge step forward, because most of those networks really don't exist outside of just, say, Facebook. And so being able to
which
create,
we all know is, yeah.
Well, yeah,
Facebook is completely banning and
banning the groups. I've heard about it, and I'm very concerned, obviously, having all of our eggs in a basket that we don't at least get to carry. And so by migrating that audience, and we're, you know, it's going to be a long time process, a constant marketing process for us to really push people into making sure they're using our website. But we feel like we can create an ecosystem there that will eventually not only be a pool for education and communication, but then potentially the ability to have a marketplace where folks can actually bring their products to market right there on our website and exchange with other members and vendors. I see a vision for that. But I also see a larger vision, too, in that we also have to make sure the laws stay fair to growers and to retailers and to consumers. And so the second thing that we really focus on, and you're going to start seeing a lot of this come out of our association here over the next few weeks, is that we want to make sure laws stay favorable to everybody. And right now, one of the things we're facing in Texas is the prospect of a retail flower ban coming out of the Department of State Health Services. And we obviously want to take a role there in fighting that and protecting our members and their ability to monetize this crop to its fullest potential. And so whether that means a tersely worded letter or perhaps a tersely worded lawsuit, we're weighing our options in order to make sure that we keep this environment favorable and open to everybody. And then, lastly, we also just want to be a conduit for success. And that's why I keep my cell phone on our website, and it doesn't ring enough. My opinion of it is like, I'll keep that on there until my phone is ringing 24/7, and then maybe it's time to take that down and replace it, But the point is that I keep myself open and accessible to everybody, not just in our membership, but even outside of our membership. I have people who will call me asking questions. And for me, I feel like Texas hemp growers, if we can just help give somebody the right information, I cannot even begin to tell you how many growers I've talked with this season that come to me wanting to do 10 acres, and we talk them down to maybe 2 or 3 because we're trying to dial back their expectations and make them understand that, look, this industry is not as easy. It's not just a cakewalk. Like some folks, I just got done reading an article right before I got on here. I haven't even shared it yet out there, but it's an absolute testament to the difficulties that some farmers in other states are facing that are being told to grow large acreage. And so if we can be a conduit for that success and help growers make the right choices as they move ahead, I feel like we're really servicing this state and really our farmers in a way that nobody else will.
Most certainly. Well, that's amazing. So yeah, you've already put together these classes. You've traveled the state. You're helping with guiding people toward best practices and connecting the supply chain, really keeping the farmers at the heart of the matter, supporting, making sure that it's worth it for our farmers, but that they have their supply chain dialed in. So it sounds like you're doing some really great work. And incidentally, isn't it true that Texas just established their rules and regulations like at the end of 2019 or possibly even this year? So it's a brand new accepted crop to be grown, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, they just actually it was really back at the end of March, we started seeing, beginning of April, I think we started seeing licenses issued. Okay. So brand new state online. Funny thing about it, most people don't even know how I got my start really in this state, was that I literally went out and started knocking on the doors of major row crop farmers in the Panhandle, just knocking on the doors. I just show up with a little sample sheet of hemp fiber and herbs. And I was talking to some major producers up in the Hereford and Vega areas, and kind of just, saying, hey, have you heard about this? This was 8 months ago, maybe 9 months ago by this point, that I'm out there in the Panhandle knocking on doors, just like, did you know that this is coming down the pipeline? And it was really fun just to see that and be a part of kind of that beginning inspiration for farmers to see the opportunity.
How cool. So with that said, I mean, obviously there's huge potential, not just for Texas farmers, but for farmers across the country to get in on this hemp industry boom that is in our near future. But what are some of the major hurdles or challenges that farmers are facing now that they're getting into the industry? Obviously, you've been encouraging them to scale back a little bit, maybe start with smaller acreage, just knowing that there are these challenges that they are inevitably going to be facing. What are some of those hurdles or challenges, if we could expand on that?
Sure. Well, I think there's probably 2 or maybe 3 hurdles that really stand out to me in considering the question. Total THC compliance is something that really concerns me. This is where the regulators are looking at not only the Delta 9 makeup of that plant, but also the THC acid, which exists on the plant before you heat it up and convert it. And so what this translates to in basic terms is that our growers have to accept the idea that they're not going to be able to grow their plants to the full term. Most of these operations, in Colorado or Oregon, for example, where they're growing these plants to 7-8 weeks into flower, we're not going to be able to do that here in Texas, or else we're going to be seeing a lot of crops get destroyed. And so one of those hurdles we really tell people to focus on is make sure you have a testing regimen in play that allows you to test that crop every week of flower, so that when you hit that 4th or 5th week, you really need to know where your numbers are, because you very well as a grower may be knocking on the door of non-compliance. And we don't want anybody to have to destroy a crop. And I think that that's going to trip a lot of first-time growers up. And I'm not looking forward to that hurdle. The other hurdle is the buyer side of all this. Once again, reading articles and talking to retailers and brokers in this industry, what I'm hearing right now is that the biomass market is flooded. It is not only flooded, but thanks to this coronavirus thing, it's backlogged. So you have retailers now that are seeing their business be cut down 30, 40, 50%, maybe even more in most cases, means that all of that trickles back into the wholesale and the processing environment, because less of the oils, less of the isolates are actually being put into products and sold. And so I get concerned that there are overzealous growers, even though we told folks in our class, be very careful. 10 acres or less if you're professional, than 20 acres or less. But the reality is I'm hearing these stories that there's apparently groups that are planning to grow 1,000 acres, 3,000 acres in some cases. And I'm just going, whoa. I think maybe there's a misunderstanding of how much of this is being sold on the market. So that's another hurdle that really stands out. And I'm sure I could think of some others. Just the general lack of planting knowledge out there, the diverse climate that we have in Texas. We have every type of climate in practically every type of elevation in Texas, from high humidity down to bone dry up in 7,000, 8,000 feet. So for us, we cannot just sit here and pretend that, okay, we're just going to tell every single farmer to grow it the exact same way and it's all going to come out the same. So there's obviously those hurdles as well, which those hurdles, my opinion of that is that all has to be learned as far as just the growing and how to do it well and how to do it right. I think a lot of growers and farmers are up to that task and up to that challenge. But if the buyer markets don't materialize, and then you have a bunch of farmers potentially burning up their crop this year or having to plow it into the ground, that's going to discourage future growth in the industry. And so that's why we tell our guys, start small, 10 acres or less. We really don't have that many folks we're working with that are doing more than 5 acres, believe it or not. Most of our growers are doing 5 acres or less. So, and I just think it's a safe bet this year, because I think that's a major hurdle to overcome, and being able to just move some high-grade filled smokable flower to market, you're going to have a lot easier time moving that this year than you are biomass.
Right. So having a more boutique niche product where you're growing a very specific variety or strain of hemp that produces a plethora of cannabinoid combinations or an entourage kind of effect, and how you grow it, how you process it, kind of being unique in the industry sounds like what most of these farmers are going to need to do, being that they're on a small scale. So with that said, it sounds like most of the farmers, and correct me if I'm wrong, are getting into the CBD side of things. What would you say the ratio is of farmers that are interested in growing for fiber or seed versus those that are wanting to grow for flower? And is that changing, or what do you see into the future? Obviously, once we get the infrastructure for processing and manufacturing dialed in, because obviously there's more infrastructure right now for processing hemp flower than there is for hemp fiber and seed at the moment. So what is your take on that?
Correct. So we actually talked about this throughout our classes that we did throughout the state there, which is that the fiber and grain markets are underdeveloped. And if you look back in time and you look back in history, what you actually find is that hemp fiber basically was replaced by synthetic fibers. It wasn't really the Controlled Substances Act that knocked it offline. Hemp fiber died really back in the mid-50s, late 50s. Mm-hmm. And so when we look at that, we have to acknowledge this reality, which is that there is a free market part to the whole equation that is keeping hemp fiber from being really that industrial application that farmers can start planting thousands of acres of. Because of that, you don't have the fiber processors out there. There's huge inconsistencies when we're dealing with growing hemp fiber. Not only that, the profit margins are you might as well grow corn, you might as well grow wheat. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of infrastructure that has to be in play for fiber to actually be something that somebody should really grow. Now, with all that said, there is talk of a company called Panda Biotech that has been talking about building the world's largest hemp decorticator here in Texas. Whether or not that materializes is going to be obviously in the air because one time this company came out and claimed they were building a facility in shallow water, and then suddenly that fell through. And so I think the fiber and the grain market, and really specifically to your question of ratio, first of all, 100% of the persons we're working with are growing for flower. They're growing for CBD. I had one person that we were talking with about fiber and grain, and then when we started looking at the map and we started realizing, there's no processing in your area, you can only take those hemp fiber stocks, I think it's 80 miles before they're not even profitable anymore. And so there's huge kinks in the supply chain that have to be worked out. And I actually tell people that I don't know that those kinks will be worked out without some kind of government intervention. When we talk about government intervention, I'm talking about like subsidies to plant it because it's considered maybe a more environmentally friendly crop. There's obviously talk about biofuels, the ability to take these stalks and turn them into some sort of fuel, or even cellulose extraction for plastics. Well, let's just take that one, right? Everybody always talks about hemp plastics could be the next big thing, is what they say. Well, it's not that you can't make hemp plastic. It's that the process of making hemp plastics is considerably more expensive than taking petroleum and making plastics. So if a company is going to make the choice to switch their packaging to hemp plastics, they're quite frankly going to have to make a choice to actually increase the price of their product. And most companies don't care to do that, right? Companies are always looking for the cheapest, most free market capitalist approach to it. That's why I say, and I'm a Milton Friedman capitalist, so I don't even agree with government intervention. But at the end of the day, I think that maybe within 5 to 10 years, you may see somewhat of an environmentalist push in the government to move farmers into growing hemp for the purpose of biofuels. And if and when that happens, I don't think you'll have any problem finding farmers to grow it. There's plenty of row crop farmers out there with combines and things that they have the capacity and the knowledge to do it. And I think when the time comes, it won't even be a challenge pulling those guys online. For now, the resurgence in hemp is happening because of its medicinal value. and we
Mm-hmm.
cannot ignore that reality. If it was not for the ability for CBD to help people with epilepsy, intractable epilepsy, you would not have seen this giant push by politicians to pass legislation to make it legalized. And so to try to mislead farmers into thinking that there's giant fiber markets and grain markets that are readily available to the American farmer, I think is it's just not there yet. And I hope at some point it will materialize. But right now our focus, and all of our growers understand it. They just understand that those things you need to see those processors with your own eyes before you commit to putting fiber into the ground, or else you might as well just get ready to plow it back in.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's very well said, and I appreciate your insights on that, because I do believe that there is huge potential still for the construction industry and the bioplastics industry. But as you said, the entry level, price point to get into this and the level of processing that's required. I mean, we're in the tens of millions of dollars for paper mills and spinning fiber mills for fabrics and these biocomposites. So
and there's a severe inconsistency issue on fiber. So when we even talk about trying to spin hemp fiber into clothing or anything, I mean, just go out there online. You'll find plenty of articles about other fiber facilities trying to nail down that consistency issue. And I always tell people that's the billion-dollar question.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody gets that fiber, that field redding process down to a science, to a machine science where it can be industrial scale, scaled up to an industrial size, then by God, hemp fiber's coming to get you, Cotton.
Yeah, exactly. Well, man, this has been a great hemp episode. We just have 2 more minutes left. So to kind of wrap it up, I'm curious, what are some of your recommendations to the farmers that you're working with, or just farmers across the world or country that are wanting to enter into the hemp industry? What are some of the recommendations or things that you're mentioning for them to look out for or to be prepared for if they do want to enter?
Well, we talked about some of those earlier in the hurdles, and once again, I just want to re-stress that knowing where it's going to go at the end of harvest is very important. Making sure that there's a buyer lined up. I think that this year, the smokable flower market is going to be a much easier market for growers to get into. There's a demand for it. The ability, we talk growers sometimes out of doing outdoor grows and instead investing their money into building greenhouses in order to produce a high-grade smokable flower. So, the ability to find that boutique niche, that organic grade niche that simply can't be replicated at scale, that's a huge demand market right now. And I think that getting in there is not a bad approach. On the biomass side, I'd say just have ducks in the row. I mean, at the end of the day, processors are still coming online very slowly. Rules haven't even been fully adopted yet for processing and biomass extraction. And so be careful. If somebody's coming out there and telling you, hey, grow 1,000 acres of this or grow 3,000 acres of this, boy, I hope everything's lined up. And I hope that contract is solid and in ink and protects you, the farmer, because, personally, speaking from experience right here, right now, I'm having a hell of a time finding people to commit to biomass contracts. The market is drastically oversaturated on that front. And so just make sure that you have those ducks in a row and line them up so that you're at least breaking even or hopefully making a profit so that you want to come back and do it again so that we can all grow this industry to what it really can be, which is that full-on industrial crop, potential to replace a lot of things right now that are not great for the planet. And so I'm really looking forward to that, and I hope farmers will take that advice to heart and run with it.
Right on. I really appreciate your insights and so thankful that you're out there in the spirit of your dad, Perry, to move this forward and help others, whether growers or in other parts of the supply chain. Check out hemptx.org, everyone. feel free to share this hemp episode. Send us an email, support@hempaware.com, if you have any ideas on what you want to hear about next. And I look forward to having you on the show in the near future and working with you on making this hempen, Zachary. Thank you again so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Tyler.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day. See you on the next hemp episode of HempAware Radio. Peace out.